Hello, this is day 1 of 5 video haul responses to the holiday mini haul using Gently Falling stamp set, both the outline and the fill stamp for the leaf. I've double mounted this on a D block so that you have both the outline version and the fill version on the same mount. You could separate that if it's more comfortable for you. I've also prepared in advance by stamping the outline on a Stamp-A-Majig sheet. If you have questions about Stamp-A-Majigs, make sure you let me know. Now, I have a base card of white base and an envelope. My white base is 4 1/4 by 4 1/4. I have a red piece at 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. I have a black piece at 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. And I have a scrap piece of watercolor paper at 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. Then I have a bunch of markers because we're going to color on this stamp. You've seen me do this before, and it's the perfect technique to give you a realistic autumn leaf effect. So I'm just going to color right onto my stamp. Now I'm using a variety of colors, so I went into my markers and I found 2 shades of green, a strong shade of red, and I think I'm using real red, and a strong shade of orange. I think I'm using pumpkin pie. I also have Daffodil Delight over there just in case I want to add some. The colors you use are entirely up to you. So I'm starting by taking those greens and just getting the edges of the leaf because the leaf is not all the way changed in colors in my mind. But inside this leaf, and again, I'm always using the thick end of the marker and the edge of it. Notice I'm not using the point of the marker. I'm using the edge of the marker. This keeps me from damaging my markers, and I'm not pressing too hard. I'm actually using a very light touch as I run this marker around the stamp. I love red and orange, so you'll see that I'll focus on putting on quite a bit of red and quite a bit of orange and kind of the rest of the colors as an accent. What colors you use are totally up to you, and what colors you use will give your card a different feel. So this is fall, and this is probably towards the beginning of fall, so there's still some green, whereas if you were at the end of fall, you might have this mostly yellow. Depends on where you are, and maybe a lot of brown. So you can change the season just by changing the markers. I'm going to wet this with smooch. You've seen me use smooch before, and I never shake that bottle. I just rotate it back and forth as you saw there, and then I spray over something safe so I don't smooch everything all around me until it's damp but not soaking wet. Now I'm going to stamp the stem of that leaf up into the corner of the watercolor paper so that I still have some room on the lower right. I'm saving that extra room on the lower right for my sentiment. Notice I'm holding down for a few seconds. Watercolor paper is fairly porous, so I need to give the ink time to soak into it. I even push a little bit to make sure I get all those colors that I work so hard. And look at the beautiful effect you get. So let me just clean this stamp off. By cleaning the stamp, I keep my area clean. This is an example of a clean and simple card. The biggest thing about clean and simple is yes, they're easy, yes, they're quick, and yes, they can be quite beautiful, but you can't cover your mistakes. So keep your area clean so that if you make, you don't make a mistake and you have to start over. Okay? Look how beautiful that came out, and I wish you could see the shimmer. So I try to turn it so you can see how it shines. It is beautiful what that smooch does to inks, and it makes them brilliant too. It brightens up the ink. So now we're going to put an outline on this. I would suggest you wait a few minutes and let it dry. I did, you just can't tell. Before you use your Stamp-A-Majig on that image. You wouldn't want to lay your Stamp-A-Majig on wet ink. So let it dry first. And then I've lined up my Stamp-A-Majig for the outline. Remember, when you're using clear mount stamp with your Stamp-A-Majig, don't move the stamp after you've set up your sheet. If you take the stamp off of the block after you set up your Stamp-A-Majig sheet, it's no longer going to work. So you have to make sure you don't change the mounting position after you create your Stamp-A-Majig sheet so that they perfectly line up. What I want is that outline to really outline the section of the stamp that we stamped. And this will give it some depth. Some people will choose to not add the outline, and that's fine too. It depends on how you like it best. I find the outline adds the depth. I'm going to use my Stamp-A-Majig again for the sentiment, and I'm using a sentiment that's nice and small that fits into that corner. I don't want something that's going to overwhelm this beautiful leaf. I want that leaf to keep its focal point. It is the star of this card. I'm using the Stamp-A-Majig for the sentiment because, guys, can you imagine getting your leaf just right and you're loving it and then you stamp your sentiment crooked? Oh, that's just depressing. So by using the Stamp-A-Majig, I'm sure that I get a perfectly aligned sentiment on my beautiful leaf that I'm very happy with. And again, I don't have to start over. So I'm basically done. Again, you want to clean your hands and make sure there's no ink on your hands. And you want to clean your surface in case it's dirty, so that you don't risk messing up your beautiful work. Clean and simple. You can't put any embellishments on top because there's going to be very little embellishments. In this case, the embellishment was the smooch that makes the actual leaf sparkle. So now I'm just going to start building my card. And so I'm going to use my snail to put the black piece on top of the red. Now the black gives our image a frame, but the red is actually calling out a color within the leaf. So since I want it primarily red, I chose a red, this is real red by the way, for my matte. But if your primary color in your leaf is green, you might want to use green. If your primary color in your leaf is orange, you might want to use orange. So your matte, it doubles as not only a matte, but it brings out the colors that you want to accentuate, the colors you love most in your card. So now I'm going to mount the focal point on that black. Again, the black could be chocolate chip or early espresso. It could be a color in the leaf as well, but it's a secondary color that's nice and dark to give that image a frame. So we've just created a photo frame for this image that we just did together. So now I'm going to raise this whole focal point up and really make it the superstar of my card using stamping dimensionals. And stamping dimensionals just have this very beautiful way of bringing attention and adding additional texture to your card. So it's not a material texture, it's just its height. It's a height that's unexpected on a flat surface, and it does wonders for bringing attention to what you want to accentuate. Notice how I press my thumb down to the center of the stamping dimensional. What that does is it raises one side of it so that it's very easy to remove the adhesive color. And you don't have a lot of hard time trying to get that off. So now I'm ready to put my focal point onto the card base. And here, use your grid paper, use your grid mat, whatever helps you to center. You do need to kind of be particular about centering, so don't lay it down hard until you're sure you have it in the center. And then once you've got it centered, the card is done. It's beautiful. Make it a point to stamp your envelopes as well. You know that Stampin' Up! This year we have square envelopes. Woohoo! So you can just stamp them and make them beautiful. This is a lovely, clean and simple design that will really wow people with a very little effort on your part. So enjoy it and come back tomorrow for another one.